Welcome to the Ruckus Associate SmartZone Administrator demonstration series for SmartZone OS5. SmartZone OS5 is a network controller operating system that's available on the SmartZone 100 and SmartZone 300 hardware platforms, and as we'll be discussing here, the virtual SmartZone network controller platform. This presentation describes the hierarchical role and configuration of access point groups on the SmartZone network controller running SmartZone OS5. If you haven't done so already, please review the presentation on zone configuration that's part of this demonstration series. Consider that a prerequisite for what we're about to cover here, because when zones are created, the zone configuration that you apply actually creates a default AP group that gets created every time that you create a zone, and the settings that you apply in the zone configuration create that default access point group. But within a zone, you also have the ability to create separate access point groups that you can define with parameters you can define for a specific subset of APs that exist within that same zone. So let's walk through how to do that. Now we'll come over here to my SmartZone network controller. We'll go to access points. And once we're in access points, we can see our different domains and zones that exist here. I have a partner domain with a subdomain defined underneath it, and my partner zone. And as I expand this, you see there's a default access point group. This default access point group is defined when you define the zone. Most of the parameters we're going to go through in creating a new access point group inherit those from this zone configuration for this default access group, and then we have the ability to override some of those settings in our new access point group. So let's take a look at that. First, let's take a look at our existing zone and look at some of the parameters we have configured on it. Now, as this comes up, we can see some information particular to the whole zone, and therefore to the default access point group. We have some location information, GPS coordinates, and as we scroll down here, several other configuration options that we are going to be able to have an opportunity to override when we create our own access point group. We have radio options that we can deviate from, and just pay attention to some of the radio options we have here, because what we're going to see when we create our new access point group is that it's going to inherit the changes or inherit the settings we have defined here. So let's go ahead and make a change here just so that I can emphasize that for you. When we move over to create our new access point group, I'll just turn off a few channels for the zone itself, and then once you go into create our new access point group, we'll see that these changes are inherited by it, but we have the opportunity to override and change it for the access point group we're creating. We also have options to configure for that access point group AP-specific configuration settings, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And we have the ability to change some of the advanced options that we have configured in our zone, again, which is the default AP group. We can override these and apply different settings in the zone to APs in this access point group we'll create. So if you think about it from a hierarchical standpoint, the zone applies a default configuration to all APs that join the zone by default, but if those zones get put, or if those APs get put into a different access point group under that same zone, the access point group settings will override the zone settings that you configured for the zone and allow those access points to still be a member of the zone, but operate slightly differently than what you have configured for the zone itself. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll save these changes so that when we get into our new access point group, we'll be able to see some of the default settings that we have for creating that access point group, and then how we can go ahead and override those. Back up here to our partner domain, to the subdomain, to the zone. Now we have to select the zone, and once we've selected the zone, we click the Create button over here, and this will allow us to create an AP group. Now under the zone, because you can't have anything else under a zone, the only option available to us is an AP group. So we'll just plug in a name here. We'll just call this the Education AP group. And as you look through this, you'll see all of the options we had in that zone configuration. Well, not all of the options, but many of the options we had in the zone configuration menu. But all of these toggle switches that are shown over here are set to off. So if those toggle switches are set to off, those are going to mean that we are going to maintain the same setting that's applied for the default AP group of the zone. Okay, but if we want to override one of those settings, we might put a little additional information over here where this is going to be APs on the third floor only. So we can put in that information and it'll add that information only to APs that are members of this AP group. We can override the GPS coordinates, but anything that's available for us to override, we must toggle the switch to the on position first. So let's go ahead and toggle the override for the zone configuration for the channel range. Now over in the previous step, we disabled multiple channels. We disabled 1 through 4 on the 2.4 gigahertz range. We can enable them on this AP and say disable these other 4 channels at the high end. Not necessarily something you really want to be doing, but just showing you the functionality we have to actually override settings that are inherited from the default AP group as a member of the zone. So these are all the same settings. There's not really anything new or different here. We can, again, override. We had cell sizing disabled at the zone level, so we can enable it here on the 2.4 gigahertz range, and we can enable it here on the 5 gigahertz range, just for APs that are part of this AP group. And other settings in here are, of course, AP SNMP options, where we can override the zone's configuration for SNMP. We can override the zone's configuration for AP specific configuration, and with these we can actually select a specific AP model, say the R500, and we can set up manual settings for these. So maybe in this location we want to disable the status LEDs on these APs, maybe because of where they're located, there's no use to have them enabled, or we don't want people to see them and know that they're APs. There could be several reasons of why we might do this, but this is an option available to us, and this would only affect R500 APs in this AP group. We can also make changes to other AP types in this AP group as well. Now we can go down here to advanced options, and these are all the same advanced options that we had under the zone configuration, which again is the configuration of the default AP group that we saw in there. So we can modify those here. We can turn on some different configurations for the AP management VLAN, all of the auto channel selection. Now I'm not going to go through what each of these options are because those were covered in the zone configuration presentation that's part of the series. So that's why that's a prerequisite to view before viewing this particular demonstration here. But we have the ability to override all of these different settings that are available that were configured under the zone. So we'll say OK here. And now it'll save this configuration. It'll create our new AP group. And if we look in our hierarchy here under our partner domain, subdomain, and the zone, now we have 2 access point groups. We have the default group and the education access point group. Once we've done this, we can define which access points we want to be members of that access point group. So we can select that access point and select the move option over here and select through our hierarchy, our zone, and we can move it to this AP group. It'll ask us to confirm that we want to make this move for this one AP. You have the option to select multiple APs as well if I had some here. And this AP will actually move to the group we just created. And once that change is completed, we can go over here and look at our education AP group. Click on that, and we can see now that this AP is a member of that education AP group. So, and actually we can go through and take a look at the configuration of this AP while we're here, and we can see some of the configuration capabilities of it. We can see the radio specific configuration. We've overridden the configuration of the zone, and we've overridden it by only using channels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So those high-end channels we disabled are showing here, and they're showing they've been overridden. We can see all the other features we've overridden as well on the 2.4 gigahertz channel, and we can see which ones we've inherited. So it marks which things you've inherited from the zone default AP group, and then the things you've changed. And we can look over here at our model specific AP configuration. We set up an R500. We see edited there. And as that comes up, it'll tell us the configuration we have for that AP group, or that specific APs in this AP group. So this concludes this presentation on access point groups. This is again part of the Ruckus Associate SmartZone Administrator demonstration series for SmartZone OS5. There are many other demonstrations detailing the configuration processes and options, so I hope you come back for more of the presentations in the future. Thank you.